Somewhere in Appalachia, I was talking to this gentleman, we'll call his Uncle Steve. His Uncle Steve was the guy that they would call to go, hey, we need you to come down here and take out these wolves. This happens also when their population gets too high. So there was this little town in West Virginia that called him up, and they had reported that 2 people were confirmed dead, and 2 more people were missing on this really popular hiking trail that goes through Appalachia that's in the West Virginia area. He takes the contract, he takes his buddy with him, and they meet up with this park ranger group, and they all got their rifles, high-powered rifles. They also carried a sidearm, usually a very high-caliber revolver, because revolvers don't jam, and you need a high caliber, because if you are dealing with a bear or a cougar, you need to have something that'll take it down in one shot. You don't want to, play pokey with something that's going to try to eat you. So there's Steve, dude telling me the story's uncle. He's a contracted huntsman, whatever. I didn't even know that was a profession. His buddy, we'll call his buddy Bob, so Steve and Bob. Bob is also a contracted hunter, and the 2 park rangers. We'll just call them Park Ranger 1, Park Ranger 2. So Park Ranger 1, they get in the truck, they drive up the mountain range, they're going towards this really popular trail. It's a hiking / camping / scenic vista that if you go to the right, there's a really big summer campground kind of thing. And if you go to the left, it eventually goes towards this really scenic overpass like cliff, where you can also camp for the night or 2, but one's for the view, one's for kids on summer camp kind of jazz, Now, 2 people went missing from the camp. The one on the right, the summer camp kind of thing. I think he said it was like a 16-year-old boy and a 22-year-old male camp counselor. They were killed. Looked like they had been mauled to pieces by bears. And then there was a female, like 15-year-old, and a female 20-something-year-old counselor that were missing. So they decide to go to the camp, ask some questions, figure out where everyone was found, and then they were going to try to trace it back to see where their origin point was. So after hours of driving, they get to the camp at like 10 o'clock at night. All the kids are in their cabins sleeping, and there's one counselor who's going to meet them to show them everything they need to see. They get there, they're talking to the counselor guy, and the rangers, Ranger 1 and Ranger 2, are just not taking it seriously. They're talking to the counselor guy, and he shows them where the boy died and where the counselor died. Now, what was really weird was the boy was dead longer than the older male. So the presumption is this 16-year-old boy went off into the woods, got lost, got killed, and then maybe like 2 hours later, the counselor realized and went looking for him, but didn't tell anyone he went looking for him. So when they found the counselor, he was dead, but he was recently dead. Now, the strange thing that immediately made Steve kind of wrinkle his eyebrows was the bodies were really far apart. So the counselor was basically headed in the complete wrong direction of where this kid went. Now, granted, the counselor, he's not a tracker, but you would think that if he wandered off into the woods to go find the kid, that he would at least have an idea of what direction to go in. Doesn't seem to be the case, but upon further investigation, they also found that the counselor's body had been dragged a really far distance. So they follow the drag marks and try to figure out where the origin point of where he actually was killed was. And eventually they find it where it goes from footprints to what looks like a scuffle to what looks like a body being dragged, and there's dried blood in the ground and all that stuff. But the other thing that really confused everyone was they had walked a considerable distance. When a bear kills you, it can drag you pretty far, especially if it's trying to get you to a den. But to just kill you, drag you hundreds of yards away from where it killed you, and just leave you there half-eaten, it's kind of weird. A bear would normally try to drag you to a place where it could eat you. The 16-year-old boy, when they found him dead, there wasn't a lot of him missing. Like, he had definitely been eaten, but it could have also been a variety of predators. What looked to have been the killing blow was the kid's neck was pretty much ripped out completely. But the rest of his body looked more like it was wolves, based on the teeth marks, the bite size. Whatever killed this kid didn't eat him. They just killed him. And they noticed a very similar pattern with the counselor. That the counselor, his face and head and neck were torn up, eaten, but the rest of the body looked more like it was from wolves. So that really also made them wonder what was going on, because bears, unless you're screwing with its cubs or its den, they don't tend to just kill things. Some animal definitely killed these 2 guys, but it didn't eat them. It just kind of like ripped off a couple chunks and then took off. And then wolves came in and cleaned up the rest. So they go back to the camp, and they're looking around everywhere they can to find if they could try to figure out where the 2 females went. So they go to the girls' cabins, and they eventually eventually found the cabin where she was supposed to be sleeping. They asked everyone questions. One of the girls said that she thought she saw her get up and leave, but she was acting weird, and she kind of thought she was dreaming it. So they kept pressing further, and what came together through questioning was it seemed as though that boy wandered off in the woods to meet the girl who went missing. She went out to meet him, but she came back, and she was weird ever since. She wasn't talking, she was always pale and staring off into nothingness. She sounded like she wasn't sleeping a lot of the nights. And then a couple days after that, they found the body of the boy and the counselor. Then, like 2 days later, she went missing. So there's a lot of questioning as to, like, why didn't you say anything? Did you find his body? She wouldn't say. She says that she thought her friend was just homesick and wanted to go home. She didn't think anything about whether it is kind of weird that she snuck out one night, and then a couple days later that boy's dead, and then she's acting weird. They ask her if they saw what direction she went. She's like, no, I just saw her walk out the door. So they're looking around for prints. They're looking around for whatever they can find. They can't really see anything. They kind of just pick a direction and go, all right, let's start this way. And after like a week of looking, they still cannot find the 16-year-old girl, but they found the female counselor. And it looked like very similar to the male counselor. She had been killed, bitten in the neck. Most of her face and neck and head were mauled, but she had been dragged like 350 yards away from where it originally happened, further out into the woods. So they came to the conclusion that this has got to be a bear who's just acquired the taste for hunting for sport. Now, in the background of all this, the two rangers were finally starting to take things seriously. Steve was definitely getting frustrated with how slow progress was. His friend Bob, who was with him, was basically getting paid by the day, so he didn't give a shit. But after I think the 10th day they were out there was an alarm that went up in the school. They had like a bell, and this bell starts ringing in the camp area, and Steve, Bob, the two rangers, they wake up from where they're sleeping, the cabin they had, and everyone's rushing towards the cafeteria. So they're piling everyone into this building. Steve walks up to the head counselor, and he's just like, what's going on? It's like 4 a.m. And he says, we were doing a head count, and while we were doing a head count, one of the female counselors, she swears that she saw something big. It growled, and it ran off into the woods, and she thought it was the bear that everyone's been looking for. But when she went back into her cabin, she notices that one of her girls is missing. So they do the head count like 3 or 4 times, and there is definitely a girl missing. So the rangers, some of the counselors, and Steve and Bob, they grab their rifles, they grab their pistols, and they start combing out, looking for anything. And they find tracks behind the cabin. But what really perplexed Steve, he says he finds what looks like wolf prints, but they're the size of bear prints. So he's like, what the absolute hell is this? So they follow these tracks, and after following them for a little while, they find the girl who is missing, and she is missing her left arm. In shock, in the woods in her pajamas. Just missing an arm. They take her, EMS comes in. I think they ended up flying her out, but she wouldn't talk. She would just stare, completely just gone. And the one time she did seem to get a little bit lucid, all she did was scream. Steve, Bob, the rangers, they tell the head guy, they're like, look, this is over. Get everyone out of here. So over the span of 2 or 3 days, all the kids get sent home. The counselors stay. Most of them stay, not all of them. Some of the counselors actually lived at the camp. So some of those counselors lived there in those cabins. So some of the counselors, the rangers and Steve and Bob, they call in for backup. They get a hold of the local police department, and they basically tell them, like, we need more people. Bring your rifles. We're going to go on a hunt, and we're going to kill everything with fur that we can find from A to B. They said they must have gone through, I think he said something like 27 miles in a circle around this camp and found fuck all. Nothing. No wolves, no bears, no deer, no nothing. He said we found rabbits and squirrels. We could not find any large-bodied animal anywhere, which is really weird and does not fit the profile of how deep they were in the woods, of what the wildlife should be around them. They found nothing. A couple raccoons, couple rabbits, couple squirrels, but nothing else. I think he said he stayed there for about 2 more weeks. The cops eventually had to go back to the town. They couldn't stay out there for that long. But the counselors, the rangers, and Steve and Bob, one day they find what looks to be a backpack, and it's about the size of a teenage girl's backpack. So the teenage girl that they had yet to be able to find. They found the female counselor. They found the girl who was missing recently. They found the 2 guys, but there was still that one teenage girl that they never found. They only found the female counselor. They finally find the teenage girl who was originally missing's backpack. And it's loaded up with clothes, snacks, flashlights, batteries. They don't understand why she was trying to run away from the camp, but they kept tearing through the backpack and they found a journal. And the journal talked about how she couldn't live with the guilt of this boy that she liked dying because he went out in the woods to meet her. And then when they were being chased, she broke off from him and left him in the woods, and she went back to the cabin. So she decided, after like a week of feeling really guilty and not wanting to speak up about what she had seen, because apparently the reason they got separated in the woods was they were running from something, she wrote in the journal that she saw a man with huge paws for feet, huge claws at the ends of each finger, covered in dark brown hair, but the body of a man. It sounds like your traditional dogman, not a werewolf, a dogman. And she said that he had a human head, but he had a snout, he had teeth, he had a dog face. I find it really strange because everything that I've ever researched about cryptids, dogmen always travel in packs. There are no singular dogmen. They're almost always in a pack, just like wolves would be. But apparently there was just one. So her idea was she was going to take a camera, go find this thing, take pictures of it to prove to everyone what actually killed them. They searched around for another couple days, and like a big swath around where they found the backpack, they eventually find a beaten to shit Polaroid camera hanging from a tree limb. Now, the boys are getting nervous because they've been out there in the woods now for weeks and have not seen any life outside of small critters, which is really freaking weird. Polaroid cameras aren't like modern day cameras. They couldn't go in there and like pull the film out, because you take a picture with the Polaroid comes out, and if you lose the Polaroid, you can't retake that photo. So they start looking around all over the ground. They eventually find some Polaroids, but they're water damaged and they're useless. Like, they're just watered out. But they found where the Polaroids were, and they did another big sweep in a circle around that area, and they did eventually find an abandoned old cabin that had a staircase that went into a stone basement, and in that stone basement, a hand-dug or tool-dug tunnel. Didn't go very deep, they said. It didn't go very deep at all, but in the tunnel, they found clothes and even some remnants of furniture and backpacks and suitcases and other knickknacks and doodads and doobits. There was canned goods. There was all sorts of weird stuff there. And they assumed, okay, maybe this is like a hobo camp or something. And it looks like part of the tunnel caved in. And that's why some of the furniture was like half buried. So it looks like there was a tunnel that kept going down, and part of it caved in. All inclusive, they were out there for a month and a half. And all they found was the backpack, the Polaroid camera, some Polaroids in the dirt, and that cave that was at the bottom. In this old, dilapidated cabin, they found cellar doors. They went down. There was water like this high. They go down and they find this tunnel. So, not extremely scary, but very freaky based on the description that the girl had in her diary of what she claims to have seen. Very stupid of her to try to go out there and photograph it, because let's be honest, even if you did somehow sneak up on a dogman, Polaroids have a flash. But yeah, they never found her. The one thing that did creep them out, though, was they found no wildlife whatsoever. They did occasionally find dead animals that had been long dead, where they were mainly just bones and dried flesh at that point. And every once in a blue moon, they said they would find a canine print, but it was just way too big to be a wolf, and they never found her. Eventually, Steve and Bob just told the people who hired them, like, look, there's nothing to find. We're done. And the cops were notified and all that. And as far as I know, they closed the camp down, I want to say, for a year. So, yeah, that's really weird, man. There's a lot of things in that Appalachian Mountain. The only thing I asked the guy, too, is I wonder why they never went to the other side of the trail and checked the cliff area, the cliff campsite area, to see if maybe there was anything over there. But I guess he said that that was like 50 miles in the opposite direction. Like, as you're driving up this trail, you'd make the right to go to the camp, you'd make the left to go to the cliffs, and he's like, the cliffs were so far away, it didn't make any sense why they would be relevant. So yeah, there's one for you. But yeah, man, when you're playing out in them woods, man, be careful. Walk softly and carry a big gun. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, that's a short one for you. Have a great night, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. What would you have done different in that investigation? I would have checked out the cliff area. Even though it was so far away, it was still attached to the trail. I would have still checked out that cliff area and seen if there was maybe another cave or maybe something was going on over there. I don't know. But leave your thoughts down below, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Good night.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, maybe even leave a comment, and check out my other videos, like this one. Bye-bye.